All right, guys, good afternoon. It's been a long conference, right? We got 2 more sessions left. So I'm really excited about this next session. I've been talking with Stephen Harrison from VinoShipper for off and on about 1.5 years now, I believe. Stephen and his team have been fantastic at helping us create the all Tennessee Wines shopping cart that we have on TennesseeWines.com. And I think I kind of put some challenges to him initially when we designed that because it was a first for him. So I'm really excited that he's able to come out here and kind of talk with all of you guys about internet sales and really what's going on in our marketplace currently and how do we take advantage of that. So, Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you, and thanks everybody for listening to me this afternoon, especially as it's getting towards the end of your conference. So the goal here is just to kind of run you through like 3 real topics. One is just to give you some of our perspective of demographics and some statistics that we see in the Tennessee market. Then we're going to just talk about direct sales in general and wine clubs, and then we'll tell you a little bit about our business at the end. Not to make it a pitch play here, but just to give you some info. So just some demographics. Again, this is from our perspective. We run transactions around the country for a couple thousand wineries now, and so we're starting to gather some info. What's really interesting about this, from my perspective, is your demographics of buyers on the direct-to-consumer is very consistent from category, from age to age. The national market, once you get to 60 plus, those are the people that are buying, but those are influenced by certain other markets like California, etc. So I was pretty encouraged. The 21 to 25-year-olds, they're not really buying online. They're getting and experimenting just through the stores right now. This is where your wine's going to. So this is just our perspective. This is not bringing in gazillions of other people's info, but I think Adam was surprised, from our view, a lot of it is going to Ohio and then Florida and Indiana. They're probably the top 3 states where Tennessee wine is going out to. Obviously, Tennessee is the biggest consumer of Tennessee wines, but outside of those. And then, just as a sideline, what's coming in is from California, which is probably pretty obvious in general. In fact, I was just sitting up in the bar here, and I was looking for the Tennessee wines sitting out there, and they're all California, so you got some work to do. Adam was talking earlier this morning about varietals, and this is distinctly different from any other state that we do. Fruit, ciders, fruit. I mean, the muscadines jump out a little bit, but otherwise, really, it's fruit wines. It's what you're selling, what people are buying, where it's going. Little cart details, the average item, Tennessee, 2.9. So basically we're saying 3 bottles of wine per order online with an average shopping cart. So Tennessee, slightly lower price point overall, so you get the general gist. And then clubs, and we're going to talk about clubs here. Tennessee, number of bottles, slightly above average, but we do find 4 bottles. So 4, and it says we do bottles and SKUs because some people do multiple bottles in an item, but actually 4 SKUs, 4 bottles, average is $70. Again, the club side here is slightly above average. And then for us, we just put in, the producers that we have clubs in Tennessee, plus we sort of look after 682 clubs across the country for wineries. And then the average members. So the membership side in Tennessee is above average, which is good to see. So we're just going to talk about growing direct sales and making money from direct sales. So the values of selling direct. Obviously, the 3-tier system exists. It has a purpose. It also has a lot of negatives about it. And so direct selling is better. There is a higher margin, clearly, for that process. You do get to start to control your customer base. You can talk to them. You can find out what they're looking for. Spreading the risk, everybody's talking about a downturn right now. The beer industry is getting their ass kicked right now by the seltzers. If you look at the statistics across the country, beer is holding its own, but that's only because they put seltzers into beer. It's classed as a beer. If you actually take that out, beer's taken a really big hit. And wines are starting to take a hit too at the lower price points, especially California. California's got a confluence of issues that are about to hit them, which is the seltzers, and they're on top of that, they've got a glut of juice too, so they've got a few things going wrong for that. And I tell you, nobody can tell your story better than you can, and if you can't tell your own story, then find somebody at your winery that can tell your story, because nobody will tell it better than you. And we'll talk about influencers and that a little bit later on too. Websites. I've seen the most convoluted websites that you can imagine with so much information that you actually can't find the buy button. Or if you can find the buy button, you go down 3 or 4 levels to actually get there. So, make the buy button easy to find, make the join the club easy to find, keep the website messaging simple, and people want to know where you are. Typically, they're not going on the website to learn about you. They want to know where you are, when you're open, how do I contact you, and most of the time, how do I join your club or purchase product from you. One of my counterparts who is in the marketing side says, Stephen, the bullet you're missing here is keep updating the website. My view on updating the website is if you want to update it, just change the color. And do that once in a while. Because the problem is you're all so busy and you're out in the vineyards, and the last thing you want to be doing is writing content for your website and updating it. And 9 times out of 10, having to contact an outside contractor to update your website anyway. So I just say keep it as simple as you can. Change the color, because people, if they come back after a quarter, they won't know what you changed, but they'll know it wasn't the same color. Shopping cart. So we still see people with PDFs as their process to purchase. And oftentimes, I haven't got it down here, but oftentimes they'll say, fax in the PDF. I mean, who has a fax machine? I mean, it's like nobody on the consumer side. Just doesn't happen. Small number of steps, and then just the payment methods, credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay. And then this one is coming up now. We're starting to see it, which is asked for payment by Bitcoin. It's a little ahead of itself, but if we're being asked by consumers to start taking Bitcoin, the digital currency is coming. So, just be thinking about that. It's not quite there yet. It's a little unstable, but it's definitely, electronic currency is coming for sure. So moving on to clubs. So people just talk about clubs. Adam, is Adam still here? Okay, so I'm sure, I know some of you are taking pictures and stuff, and you're welcome to take pictures. But I'm going to make sure that Adam has this information, so if you want it afterwards. But this is a fascinating piece, which is the club, because it does mount to numbers. Because what you'll find most of the time in your sales is you'll get the cyclical sales, and then as you move into that sort of fourth quarter, you get the holidays, October, November, December. It's a great time in the US. I've always loved it, because it's like once you hit October 1, it's like party time to the end of the year. But what the club does is it stabilizes your income. One of the best examples I've got, and people sort of strive to get there, is William Salem, Pinot producer out in California, 65 to 70,000 club members, with a 10-year waiting list to get onto that item. So I mean, it's a fascinating place to be. But they've got to the point where they don't sell anything outside. I mean, literally, if you want to buy it wholesale or at retail, you're paying consumer pricing. They don't discount. And they've managed to get to the point where they do production to their club, which is a fascinating place to be. It's like, I just need to sell 5,000 cases on this quarter, and I'm going to make to that 5,000 cases. Yes?
When you look at your demographics, purchasing habits and spends of your club members versus your non-club members in the winery, is there enough of a difference, you know, if you were uploading your email addresses and your purchase history to create some lookalikes to do local marketing, would you use your club data to do that, or would you stick with your local data for your, you know, for your routine through the store customers?
So using the email addresses of the buyers?
That is your demographics that much different?
Ah.
That you were, so in a Facebook campaign or something, you were gonna upload to create a lookalike. Would you choose your clubs to clone, or would you choose your routine customers that come through the front door?
I would use the routine customers coming through the front door. Is that what you're looking for? That's what we would do. So these numbers, they add up quickly. And you can grow a club and they become your fans as you go. But we just do this as an example. $70 is the average across the nation. Not only do we see this, we've got numerous other organizations that have done the same thing. I bounce between whether you sort of do 4 or 3 shipments a year. You're farmers, so you know, you probably see the changing in the weather patterns these days. We run a number of clubs for people. We used to do a sale in August and ship in September. Now Texas, Arizona, places like that, we can't ship until November now. It just never cools down. So trying to find the decent time of the year to ship is a key. But anyway, some interesting numbers because you can start to focus on that. So if nothing else, how many people have clubs already? So the rest of you either don't have a winery or don't have a club. So if you don't have a club, it really is. And people are like, well, I don't know whether I can get 100 members or 200 members. Well, a club is one. You get one person in a club, then you can claim you've got a club, and then you'll have a second person join, and it just grows like that. We've seen some Tennessee wineries grow very, very quickly once they have the offering. We say it's a must-have for success. If you're a small operation these days, you're not going to get distributors. It's not going to happen. You might get into your local retail stores, but clubs are the only way we see as a consistent income going forward. We'll talk a little bit more about discounts. Everybody just thinks I'm in a club, I'm running a club, I should automatically give a discount. People are moving away from discounts. That's not the reason that somebody wants to be associated with you as a winery. And I use winery. Do we have any cideries here? I use it genetically right now. So we sort of call them wine products. We're trying to decide whether you're producers or makers so that we can encapsulate wines, ciders, and meads. The frequency and quantity, do you really want everybody to be a part of your club? You don't want those discount people. They're only there for the discount. They won't do anything extra. They're not the best places. And then paid shipping, whether you should or you shouldn't do these particular aspects of it. The benefits. So it's not just the discount. Discount, it can be something, you can build it in. But what people really want, they want a story, they want an experience. The experience comes from coming out to your place. You can throw a barbecue, you can have, you can have the unveiling of something new. But it's this exclusive access, early access, and then the experiences. So there's a good friend of mine, I don't know if anybody's heard of Nick Goldschmidt, maybe not. Goldschmidt, he runs Goldschmidt Vineyards, funnily enough. He's also an international consultant, especially in South America, etc. The guy is just knowledgeable about wines, and he just does on Instagram. He'll do, if you look up Goldschmidt Vineyards on Instagram, you'll find him. And he does these little 30-second things. He'll sit with his wine, and he'll tell the world how his is the absolute best wine and what it is and what people will taste. And he just jumps online, and he's got this characteristic. He builds it, and like I say, not everybody can jump in front of the camera and the video themselves. But you've probably got somebody in your operation that wants to do that. We always talked about, for all of the different businesses, whether we were doing startups, etc. It's a matter of sort of creating a rock star for your own business. And the quirkier they are sometimes, the better they are. I was at CiderCon last couple of weeks ago, and the guy that ran the wine club was hilarious in the way he presented. He was so dry, and he goes, "Ah, every time a member joins, they want some." He was talking about all the negative things that wine club members wanted. They wanted special treatment, and he said, "So we have to do this for them." But the way he presented and the way he interacts with his membership is fantastic, and they've got a rapidly growing cider club. The discounts over a sign, so you can go out and buy a $10 pen, gold, sign a few bottles, stick it in with your shipment, or have it on your shelf for people to buy. So when somebody opens up that at their dinner party, etc., now they've got a story to tell. Took you 30 seconds, a $10 pen, you can sign for years. But signed bottles, people are fascinated by signed bottles, by the winemaker. I don't know why, but it works. It works. We see it all the time. Tips when running a release. So how often? So again, we sort of sit in that 3 to 4 times a year is a good time. That if you want to push the numbers up. So what happened was, it used to be, historically, it was a case a year. And then everybody goes, well, I'm making this much off a case a year. Why don't I do it twice a year? So then I'll make twice as much. And it's like, well, if I do it twice, if I do it 4 times, and then they went to that you ended up with these clubs that were going every single month. But as you all know, the cost of shipping and packaging is really expensive. And so what happened is, now the pendulum is swinging back away from that again. And now going down to the 4 or twice a year type clubs. Depends what you've got, what to offer. We see people open a release, they do a release, they close the release. Now, from when you so if you, let's say January 1 you open a release, and January 2 you've run it and closed it, and your next one is not going to be until April 1st. Well, what happens when the person joins on January 5th? So many people just say, well, they can wait until the April 1st. Well, you know, the US is a place of instant gratification. So we actually say, keep your release open until about, depending on how frequently you're doing, about 4 weeks before the next release. So everybody who's joining through those subsequent weeks or months, send them something straight away, because they're going to want to get something. And then cut it off, and then, you know, obviously 2 weeks before your next release, you don't want to be sending them the last release and then the next one. So, you know, think about just how long you keep it going. And then we talk about the timeline. So if you're running a club, many of you'll have this experience of you'll run the release, you'll ship it out the next day, and miraculously you'll get all of these people saying, I'm not going to be there, I need to cancel, I need to change my address, I did all of these things. So we start to talk about, hey, send out an email saying, hey, we've got a club coming up, can you update your information, have you changed your address, can you update your credit card, and sort of do this about a week before. Then you run the actual release, you charge the cards. Some people are so eager to get it out the door, they do that and then try and ship it out that next day. Just wait a few days, because you'll save yourself so much aggro on changing shipping labels, cancellations, all kinds of things. Just wait 3 or 4 days and then ship it out. And then that's when the last of the people will wake up and go, oh God, I'm not going to be there, etc. But you know, these are problems you deal with. You know, most FedEx, UPS, etc. You can hold orders, you can redirect them. It's a process, but you can do that. But just think about the timeline. It doesn't have to be run it, ship it. Just give yourself a few days to work through the process. Attracting and maintaining customers, communication. So Teresa Dorr, who works with us, who is sort of a club expert, as it were, and she's been doing it for 20 some years. A phone call, somebody signs up online, there's no reason not to just give them a call, say, hey, thanks for joining, is there anything we can do for you? Makes them feel special straight away, starts to build that experience with you that they're not just this forgotten number that's out there. Generations. A lot of people are moving to texting now. We have one, you okay there? We have one club on the third delivery attempt notice that they actually text directly into those people to say, hey, it's coming, and their response rate from texting is 90% greater than any other method of reaching that particular demographic. So start to look at texting as well. Mailing lists, you've got your own mailing lists, using MailChimp and the like for the mailing lists. Great way of communicating, great tools out there. Social media. So, who is the influencer? And you'll see this whole influencer thing, and some of you may have used influencers, many of you may not yet. The biggest influencer is people like you. You're the ones that can actually influence. If you get on the mediums that people are using, tell your story. Don't necessarily send product for product placement. It works at very high end and at high volume. I will tell you this little story. We had a wine organization or wine company that they teamed up with this influencer because she had I think it was 4 million, just under 4 million followers. It's a number that's astronomical. And they said she's going to do all of this product placement, etc. So you have to do your research, because she did the first posting for this particular company and nothing happened. And so we started to look into why nothing happened. Well, she was an influencer and she did have a massive following. Average age was 18. It didn't work out so well for the sales. So you are your own influencer. People don't realize that they are their own influencer for their own business. So I just do that. Encourage check-ins and likes. So when people come out to your wineries, encourage them to do that. Whether they're using Yelp, they're using TripAdvisor, Facebook, etc. Give them some incentive. If you're charging for a tasting, give them 10% off your tasting if they'll check in. Just these little tricks that don't cost you much. We like this social media. Give them a place to take a photo. Most places will have their signage like way up there. You can't do anything. If you put a little sign, or somebody had like a little sort of sit-on plane thing which had their logo down the side. Everybody jumps on this little thing to have their photos taken, or a neon sign that has your name that's just on the wall, because they're all there with their selfies with their neon sign, and they're posting. This is the cheapest advertising you will ever get. I might have it on another slide, but if you've got a wireless network, don't close it, because a lot of wineries are in places that don't necessarily have great cell reception, etc. So if you've got a wireless network, do a guest network. Let them have access to the network, because what they won't do is they won't think about, this was cool, I'll go away, and a few hours later I'll post something up. They want to be here and now. So if you give them access to your wireless network so they can connect up, post, etc., it's a much better way to go. Everybody wants to be part of your business. They want to know your business. They want to tell your story. So help them tell your story, because they will. There's a lot of people want to do that. So the social media, I think it's great. It doesn't per se generate instant sales, but it's just like old-fashioned marketing. It creates an awareness. It lets people know about you. Capture email addresses. We've done So just as a side, part of our business is we run university alumni programs for the universities. And so we see it directly. They have a 100,000 mailing list. They have all of these people that follow them on social media. Social media doesn't move the needle. Direct email with a story or something to tell or something to sell works exceptionally well. Have a handout in your tasting room, something that they can take away, postcard or something. Oftentimes you can put a coupon code on there that they can either give to your friends, etc. Just again, ways of carrying it outside to come back onto the back onto your site. Support local organizations. A lot of real estate people want to do deals where they're bringing in people, the local chambers, etc. Try and team up with these organizations. Many of you probably do. But they oftentimes, real estate organizations, chambers, etc., they want a location to actually have host one of their events. So just be one of those. Just team up. Go talk to them and be one of those. Oh yeah, there we go. I said about the internet. So it's just the branded opportunities. Sales policies, minimum order quantities. So this was fascinating. We integrated for a while with Amazon before Amazon got out of the wine industry again for the fourth time. Although you could never make money selling wine through Amazon, Amazon could make money, but the winery could never make money through the whole processing of their thing. But we teamed up with them and integrated because we wanted to learn about what their philosophies were, etc. Amazon makes you, doesn't matter who you are, makes you sell in increments of one, no matter what. So even though it could cost you $25 to ship that one bottle of wine, and Amazon would only give you $9.99 back against that, they insisted that you could only sell in ones. You couldn't do a 6-pack or a 12-pack or anything like that. So our view is don't have an order minimum, but make it uncomfortable for people that order one bottle. So have a packaging fee. So you've got a cost of a box, it's $10. Have that one bottle plus $10 and encourage them to move up the quantities. And the reason we say this is because oftentimes the internet is used for a couple things to start with. It's used for gift giving and just thank you gifts. And people don't want to have a 6-bottle minimum if they're going to try and send a gift to somebody. 1 or 2 bottles. So if you are going to do a minimum, I would never do it more than 2. We have clients, they'll come to us, we'll see they'll put a 6-bottle minimum because we won't stop them using our platform how they want. And we literally can now say, and we guarantee you will make 0 sales online with a 6-bottle minimum. Just won't happen. So, be careful on that. And discounts. So the idea of selling direct, I'm a finance guy by background. Where I come from. So the concept of selling direct is great. I make the extra margin rather than selling to a distributor at 50% off. The number of wineries we'll see give 30 to 40% discounts because they're selling direct. It's like it's just like you've just lost the whole concept here. The idea is to make more money, not give it all away again. So you can use discounts strategically. Sometimes to move, you've got some wine, you just want to move that wine, but tell a story about why you're moving that wine and why you're giving the discount. Discount is your brand, and so you have to remember that. That will directly impact your branding. People will just wait for you to give your next discount if you're known for giving discounts all the time. And so you just become a discounted brand, and it's sort of damaged you. So shipping can be used in that. Sometimes we'll say, hey, tell people they'll get paid shipping on a case of wine, and use that as your way of discounting the product rather than just putting a percentage off of the product itself. Because again, it's the perception of your brand that you really want to hold that price point. And if you can't hold the price point, maybe you just have the wrong price on your product. So, you know, look at your own pricing all the time. Yes?
As you're looking at your market, if you also have retail sales out there, don't you have to also be careful that you're not discounting and undercutting your retailers?
So it's that's a great question. So ask a retailer if he cares about whether he undercuts the price that you sell on your website.
Oh, no.
He doesn't give a shit, you know, honestly. Branding is very important. I've known wineries actually pull product from the retail channel because retailers consistently undersold what they were wanting their brand price to be. So again, looking at that opportunity. But you're right. I mean, you know, it's looking across all channels as to how your product is perceived out there. And oftentimes, California suffers this from a lot. If you go into 90% of the California wineries that are also selling in retail, you can always buy it cheaper at the retail store than you can buy it on premise. But you know what? Those wineries sell a ton of wine on premise. And the reason is the experience that people have come in for, and they've had that great experience. People aren't going to run down. They want to support the actual producer as close to the producer as they can. So it's a topic to be, but yes, the consistency across sales channels is very important. Optimizing logistics, this is what we just talked about. Packaging is a big cost, plus the cost of shipping for everybody. So clubs, number of bottles per release, the world seems to be telling us right now that 4 is the number. If you can do case quantities, it's great. The frequency, don't do it too often. It's going to cost you a lot of money. There's an overhead to running a club for sure, you know, if you've got it yourself. So, you know, and then the cost associated with shipping, minimum order quantities, 1 bottle sales, no minimums, 2 bottles. I mean, we just covered that a few minutes ago. So, just outlining for the optimization. Packaging thoughts and observations. So don't use styrofoam. It's not good for the environment. Everybody says it protects the product better. I would go, it used to. It still does a little bit. People say it protects from the temperature issues more. What I can tell you is once a bottle is in a styrofoam pack and it's got a short trip, it might protect it from a temperature issue. But once it heats up, it stays hot. And so where paper pulp can go up and down pretty quickly, styrofoam does no favors for the wine at all, because it will take it to a high temperature and it will keep it there for a lot longer period of time. No peanuts. So UPS, FedEx, they don't, you know, the whole peanut concept that people use and bubble wrap, it's just not acceptable packaging. So, you know, UPS, FedEx, they're really looking for the paper pulp, or the styrofoam packaging to protect the wine. You cannot, in case anybody has thought about this, you cannot ship in your regular wine cases with no protection. Those cases get destroyed very, very quickly. And people say, well, UPS and FedEx should be more careful because I've got fragile and all that sort of stuff. They are gorillas when it comes to taking around packaging, I can tell you. Cool packs work for a certain period of time. They usually last 24 to 48 hours. But you have to plastic wrap all your bottles because they'll cause condensation, and they will actually do it to the point where your labels will come off your product. So you have to plastic wrap. And then you can't use cool packs with paper pulp. Water, paper, don't mix. The boxes will literally fall apart. And then timing on when to ship. So, you know, most clubs now, February, May, October, November, depending on where you are in the country. Those are, you know, sort of most places from May to end of September. It's just too hot now to move things around. Gift wrapping, people ask us oftentimes about gift wrapping the bottles. Is it an experience or is it just a waste? It is an experience if you get a really nice wrapped bottle, but you've got to be doing some other things around it. If you're sending a regular club shipment, the casing that you're using is there to make sure it gets to the customer in one piece. We'll have people call us up and say, oh my God, the packaging was absolutely destroyed. We're like, is the bottle okay? They're like, yes. We're like, then the packaging did its job. So I mean, ultimately what you want to do is get it there safely. And we are all shipping glass most of the time. So, is it an experience? It is. But does it really make a difference? Not most of the time. I think this comes into its own when you're, in your tasting room. You may have done a carved or etched bottle, and you're putting it in a wood box or something like that. When you're giving people a special thing, on site, it's fabulous. Shipping, you want to get it there safely and do it that way. Where would you ship? So, if you're online, I had this conversation many years ago with a winery, and they had their website, but they actually had no direct shippers permits and nowhere to ship anywhere. And it's like, well, so why do you have a cart which is bringing people in to buy? It's like, if you're going to be in it, commit to it and get licenses. And so they were a California winery, again, trying to go around the whole country. And they're like, well, Louisiana, $1,500, it'll never pay back. But it's like, no, but you have to think about your cost of licensing being an average across everywhere. It's the story you're telling. I can ship, therefore I'm going to be able to ship everywhere. Some licenses will pay 10 times over, others won't. So think about where. But if you look at if you looked at the statistics of where Tennessee wine's going, it would almost say, hey, ship in Tennessee, ship to 3 other states, and you've got the majority of where your product is actually going to go. And especially if we think about, the identity we were talking about earlier, if it is a fruit wine market, own it. Don't be embarrassed by it. We tell the story, and I'll share this with you. When we first started out, under our business model, we were bringing some wines into California on behalf of an Alaskan winery. It's a strawberry rhubarb wine, okay? Which I don't know whether you make. So for me, in California, obviously I'm not a Californian, but I live in the by the vineyards. So to call a winery and be told that the person is out in the rhubarb patch is somewhat different than the normal story of being out in the vineyards. But eventually we told them, it's like, hey, you should get your own direct shipper's permit for California. They were moving so much strawberry rhubarb wine into California, which was amazing to us all. And, the cleaner version of this is, I can imagine sort of this California guy who's out with his buddies telling him how fantastic this cab is that he's sitting there, but secretly he's having his strawberry rhubarb wine sent to his house because nobody knows he's having it, So, just think about where you want to go. Think about the markets. You don't necessarily have to be everywhere. We find with clubs that within their own state is probably 60 to 80% of the club membership. As opposed to going further afield. California depends on it not being in California. I have a friend who works for Charles Krug over in Napa Valley. He says his competition for getting people on his premise, because I think we were talking about the wine routes, etc., and you've got room to expand and work together. His competition for getting those tourists now in Napa are 1,100 different wineries he has to compete with, just in his area. And so, we're talking hundreds of yards away from each other. I mean, it's not like miles, it's hundreds of yards in some cases. And you don't have to start the local and build conscientiously. It's sort of build where you want to go. And it's okay to say no to some people. I'll pitch about VinoShipper later to try and prevent you having to say no so much, but anyway. So that's sort of the main part about that. So just a little bit about VinoShipper. We're a technology-based business. We are a winery. These are the 3 names that we go by. Our online brand is VinoShipper. Our corporate name is ZeroLink, and we have Winston Winery, which is our winery under which we trade. We think technology-wise first. We have more in development on the engineering side than we have in any other department. this is a complicated industry from the direct consumer sales side. And so we focus on that. We're producers and sellers of wine products, and we do these alumni and affiliate programs that we manage. But at the end of the day, we license in brands to expand our partner sales. So we partner up with our winery clients, and that's how we do it. We license in. So that's this is the key line to what we do. Our goals is to get people to clearly get compliant direct sales, increase their direct sales themselves, simplify the internal procedures. We like to the clients we work with, they get a notice that they've got an order, and all they have to do is print out a shipping label. UPS comes and picks it up, and off it goes. And just listening to what you guys were listening to for an hour and a half or an hour earlier about just oxidization, wow. just a whole new story. So you get time to focus on more of your items themselves. So these are our core portions to what our business does, besides looking after these other pieces of our business. Because of the nature of how we've got our application is a cloud-based system, so we don't cross-market in any way, shape, or form. Everybody's information is their own information. But what it does allow us is to create clever marketplaces, essentially. We can do segmented marketing for people. So obviously with Adam here, we've worked with Tennessee and we've created a site there. We're looking at making it down another level, so there'd be just a members version of it. We did shop ciders. We probably had the largest number of cider clients. And so it was like, well, why don't we just throw them all onto one page? And so we have shopciders.com. We did the same with meads, because we got very friendly with the mead industry, mainly because UPS and FedEx would not carry mead, because they were quoting some Department of Transportation thing that other wine was not wine. So, we argued that fruit wine is wine, that's other wine. So mead made of honey is just the same as that. And so we got friendly with them because we stopped a lawsuit, so that was great. And then, not to hide away from fruit wine, it's very popular. We have a lot of fruit wines on our application. And so we created shopfruitwine.com. And then we do with other organizations, and we've got numerous ones. So we're trying to use the data in a way to drive the markets. And you've probably heard now of the states, because of the Wayfarer Act and sales tax, there's this whole marketplace facilitator concept that a marketplace facilitator, such as us, has to now collect and remit all the sales tax for everybody. Which some people would go like, oh my God, that's horrible. But we just thought, that's great, because now we can actually solve another problem for many of our clients, which is filing and paying their sales tax for them. So it was a win. So we've been around a fair amount of time. We're in Windsor, California. Development is out of San Francisco, but we have folks in Livermore and Santa Cruz too. So we are very California-centric. And then just sort of closing out, things to consider. Your website. Just go back and have a look at your website. I actually, so the best people, if you've got kids, grandkids, kids that are on the internet, if you have these, have them check out your website. They will very quickly tell you what's wrong with your own website. You don't have to go to an expert, just go to a child. They will tell you. So I have 3 kids, and every now and again, my kids are a little older now, we would get them to test our website, and they would just break it. And our engineers was like, well, why did they do that? Like, well, ask them. They're like, why did you do that? And they're like, well, because that's how we do everything. It's like, well, why would you open 27 versions of the same page with different tabs? They're like, well, because we're comparing data. It's like, well, we didn't design for that. So we'd fix it. So kids are exceptionally, they are nimble. I mean, most of you have probably got a new phone and had your kids set it up for you, etc. And but check out the kids on how to do it. And then just look at your site. How easy is it to get to the buy page? You know, how obvious is it to get to the buy or join my club? And then really, if you're not in clubs, you should really look at this. You should, everybody can say, hey, I don't have time to do it. But you don't have time not to do it, really. In reality, if you want to grow your brand and get loyalty, you've got to set a date and say, by this date, I'm going to do this. And you can reach out to people. And I say, come to class. We actually do have a person that runs a wine club class last Thursday of every month. If you want to come, just ping us. It's a free class. Teresa talks for an hour and a half, and tells you everything you should know about running a club. It's pretty educational. And again, she's got a lot of experience. This is us, that's me. I was told not to use all these colors, but I did. But there we go. And so I'm happy to answer any questions.
So we can come every Thursday to California?
Yes, yes. Open.
So if we use a vendor like VinoShipper for wine clubs, is that taking liability from carriers dropping it off to minors? It's still us again.
So I actually have a complete sort of presentation on the regulatory side and the landscape from the insider's perspective. So the enforcement agencies, really their goal originally was to actually help the industry as opposed to damage the industry. And they seem to be going on a proactive process right now of hurting things. But our system does a number of pieces. First of all, we're fully integrated with UPS. So just to describe an experience of a buyer or a club member coming through our system. So first of all, everybody's age verified. So it's an independent third-party age verification process. So it's done real time before they can even make a purchase. It's required by at least 5 states now, but because we actually don't know and you don't know where that customer will ultimately ship something, they could ship to one of those states, we do it. So we age verify everybody. Every package can only go to a state if it's licensed to go in the first place. And then all of the labels have the over 21. We actually even reprint extra language on the labels to make sure. And UPS have gone through so much educational process now for the actual delivery. You know, if that UPS driver doesn't do his job at the end of the day, there's not much that we can do. But ultimately, we can all sue UPS for not doing their thing. The obligation that the state, especially like Tennessee, is trying to go back to the actual the winery. That's going to lose in court.
And just so you know, if you missed the business meeting, we are dealing with that through legislative initiatives right now.
So on the sales tax side of thing, which is also picked up, is there's a lot of liability disappears going through a marketplace facilitator now for the collection and payment of sales tax, et cetera. So there's an upside on that side. But yeah, Tennessee's the only one that I've ever known that has tried to step back through to the actual producer of the product.
It is happening a few other times. I talked with Steve Gross about that.
Uh-huh.
They just haven't been interested in pursuing it in individual states.
Yeah, so we face stings all the time, whether they're real, as in, you know, somebody will fail. So we go to a manual process if somebody fails the digital version, and it's like, oh well, you know, yes I am 18, but my brother who's getting the wine will be 21. It's like, well, your brother can buy it, and we cancel the orders out. So there's a process that we go through that only ever sends orders through. In fact, somebody was talking to me today about the same subject. We've cut fraud down to 0. We don't have fraud because people have to go through this age verification process to start with, and then we've got full traceability everything. But the age verification does a lot of things, and fraud is one of the biggest things. It's zeroed. It's taken that out. So.
And as we've been working with you guys, a good point, if we were individual wineries and we all sat in a room once a month or once a week and figured out, we've been sending, you guys are pretty good about picking up, you got one UPS driver that maybe he's taking it to the house or so to speak, and without the way you guys do it, that would have never been, you never would have known that. I mean, if we're all in this room, we don't talk to what winery we're actually, or what person, but sending it through that system helped, you know.
Yeah, yeah. We spend a lot of time focused on that compliance aspect of it because it's so serious, and it's for the distributors that are constantly trying to close down direct shipping. The sale to miners has been for years their biggest argument. It's the weakest argument they've ever had, but they still use it because it creates fear for everybody.
So can I ask you a follow-up question, and this might be put out, is how, since if we're new to the industry, how do we get past 100-mile distribution with wine clubs? If we can only distribute 100 miles from the winery.
That's for self-distribution to on-premise locations, hotels, conference centers, and restaurants. It has nothing to do with us.
Wine clubs or whatever it's licensed to.
Yeah, because you're going to go through UPS or the common carrier FedEx. So it's common carrier checks that pass 100 miles, not.
That's a different license.
Yep. Well,
It's not
no.
licensed.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, you have a direct shipper's license.
Right. Yeah.
There's a self-distribution law, and there's a direct shipper's license. So two different things.
Okay, so self-distribution just comes with being the winery.
Self-distribution, you still have to have a license for it. That allows you, if you don't have a wholesale contract with NC, allows you to take orders fulfilled to on-premise locations, restaurants, conference centers, hotels. Not retail package stores, not grocery stores. Okay, within 100 miles of production facility. The direct shipper's license allows you to either have the license yourself, or if you don't want to get the license yourself, use VinoShipper, shipping through them with their license that they have in the state.
And that allows you to ship direct to the consumer.
Okay, so that's the advantage of going with a vendor like this, is they do the licensing and all that stuff for us.
You still have to have a license.
We have to pay for it, but we don't have to worry about all the legal stuff behind it.
Yeah, our model works that you sort of, for our clients, they deal with we can facilitate the transactions within their home state, but they have to be licensed. But then out of state, we take care of that aspect of it, correct? Yeah. So yeah, the distributors, so the self-distribution is coming up bigger and bigger in most states because now finally the country seems to be waking up to the fact that 80% of the wine sold through the retail channel is now coming from, I think, 18 wineries. So if you put it in perspective, again, my other slide deck, there's now 15,000 registered wineries in the U.S. That's up from 8,000 when we started in business. So it's almost doubled in the last 14 years, the number of registered wineries in the U.S. But the number of wineries that control that top 80% has not changed. So now, if you think about it, you've now got this extra number all chasing. And so what states are going like, well, they just can't get distribution. So we're going to help them do their self-distribution. And so more states are bringing in self-distribution rules. And it's the only way. I mean, it truly is the only way that the small producer will ever survive. Oh, that's me. There we go. Put it down. Any other questions that I can answer for anybody on direct shipping or clubs? Clubs are they are really important as a revenue generator and controller of timing of your cash flow. It's hugely important. And those members, they become your biggest proponents out there. They will sell your story better than anybody else, and they just want to feel a part of you. So if you can just, even if it's just touching out, telling them, we were out in the vineyards pruning, just those little stories that takes 30 seconds to put up on Instagram if they're following you there, or on your Facebook page. Just a little story, just telling them what's going on. They then feel so much more connected. If you've got a dog, the number of wineries that have got these dogs now that are absolutely famous as heck, because they tell a story or they do something, and everybody you'll scroll past 1,000 pictures of bottles, until there's a dog looking at you. You stop, and you have to read what's underneath that. You know, it's just the dog, the eyes, the whole thing. It works.
Have you heard any wineries just having like closed Facebook pages and closed just for as a kind of perk for the customers? That's
Say again, sorry.
like a closed Facebook group for just the wine club members where they get special offers and special collateral type of things.
So-
They can, if they're paying attention to that, that they can like get.
So when it comes to the social media things, my view is you shouldn't close down anything. You can do the targeted pieces through your mailing list and send the details so you are targeting, because you have there's two ways. We have some wineries out there that they want to post their price and their club member price. But from our perspective, that sort of doing that makes me feel inferior. Yes, there's a sort of counter to that, which is like, oh well, if you were a member, you would get this 15% less. But it's like, now you've just made me feel not so good, and I was going to send a gift, and so I struggle with the sort of putting the two things side by side. But again, and to put it in perspective, we do work with a couple thousand wineries, and we're in like about every state. So we see different regional trends, and we're starting to pull stats like we are for today, to demonstrate to people like, hey, this is what your market looks like. We did CiderCon a couple weeks ago. It was the first time we'd actually pulled stats for an industry. And it was interesting to them, it was interesting to us actually, where your demographics, and I think this is important from an age standpoint. Like I say, that's really cool to see this consistency from like 26 all the way through to 60. If you were in the cider industry, they had the same start point, it peaked, and by the time you're at 60, they're gone. So it was really indicating that they'd migrated off into something else, and maybe wine. But the demographics is an interesting piece to see for sure.
I think that if you haven't been not doing that, something that'd be useful as your portfolio of things you can buy is like, I come from a marketing background, so we can use critical mention or something like that, where we can track the metrics of online and stuff.
Yeah.
If you're providing that, that's value added to the thing that we don't have to go find another online tool to find where our customers are coming from and why and where.
Sure, most people have a Gmail account and therefore have access to Google Analytics.
Right.
And so for us, if a client comes in and says, hey, can you throw out a Google Analytics pixel on your page, we just drop that in, and then all of that transactions start to feed back. So if you're running promos, you're getting that direct data, so you can see what you did and whether it turned into a sale and at what value. So there's a lot of pieces that we can throw back to you as additional data as well. Less about us, wine clubs. It's a good way. And then make your shopping cart easy to use and find. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. All right.